3 weeks to go for the Delhi elections. The Union Home Ministry today has granted permission to the Enforcement Directorate to prosecute former Delhi Chief Minister and Aam Aadmi Party National Convener Arvind Kejriwal, along with his then deputy Manish Sisodia. This is in connection with the money laundering case linked to the alleged liquor policy scam. The move comes months after the Supreme Court ruled that the Enforcement Directorate, just like the CBI, has to take prior sanction for the prosecution of public servants, including Chief Minister and Deputy Chief Minister. This is as per the Criminal Procedure Code in money laundering cases. So far, the framing of charges against Kejriwal in this case was pending in the absence of this sanction, which today the Ministry of Home Affairs has given. The approval from the MHA comes a month after the Delhi Lieutenant Governor V.K. Saxena gave his nod to the agency, the Enforcement Directorate, to go ahead and prosecute Mr. Kejriwal. The CBI got the sanction for the same in August of 2024 in what is a parallel investigation in the same case. The ED, of course, is looking at the money laundering angle. The CBI is looking at the alleged criminality angle. Now, this development comes exactly 10 months after Kejriwal was first arrested by the Enforcement Directorate in March of 2024. Subsequently, he was also arrested by the CBI. And then later in September of last year, he was eventually granted bail by the Supreme Court of India. He was, of course, incarcerated for 6 months in jail. And this comes bang in the middle of this election campaign, an election which he has made into a referendum of sorts on his anti-corruption crusader image. He was, of course, released from the Tihar jail in September of 2024. So what does today's decision mean? The sanction to prosecute Mr. Kejriwal, what are the implications of that? And what might the effect be, both for Kejriwal as well as for Manish Sisodia and the Aam Aadmi Party itself? Because remember, the political party that is Aam Aadmi Party has also been made a party in this case, and accused in this case. Number one, with the Home Ministry's sanction, the Enforcement Directorate can move court and ask for framing of charges against Kejriwal and Sisodia. That is a significant development because it indicates, and if a court is convinced that yes, charges can be framed, then what that means is that the court is convinced that prima facie there is enough material that's been placed before it, whether it is in the form of evidence or grounds that the investigating agency has brought forth, which seeks the sanction to prosecute, which means that charges can be framed against the accused individuals. It also clears the path for the prosecution and the trial to begin. The court, while framing its charges against the accused individuals, will also give a date on when the trial can begin. This could lead to a formal indictment, and then, of course, there could be a lengthy legal trial, and that would again mean further legal consequences for Mr. Kejriwal. It also, and because it comes bang in the middle of the election campaign, we've got less than a month to go for the Delhi election, it gives a lot of political cannon fodder and ammunition to the Aam Aadmi Party's rivals, both the BJP and the Congress, ahead of the Delhi polls, who have tried to put the AAP on the mat over these very same corruption allegations. Now, Arvind Kejriwal is facing these grave charges in the alleged liquor scam. According to the charge sheet that was submitted by the Enforcement Directorate before the trial court, Kejriwal, they allege, the ED alleges, is the kingpin and the key conspirator of this scam. They've also named AAP leader Vijay Nair. The ED alleges he acted on behalf of both Mr. Kejriwal and Mr. Sisodia. The charge sheet says that Mr. Kejriwal was in touch with one of the main accused in this scam, Sameer Mahindra, who is one of the biggest private distributors of alcohol in Delhi. Kejriwal asked the accused, Mr. Mahindra, to work with one of the co-accused, Mr. Nair, who is in charge of all communication for the Aam Aadmi Party. The ED's charge sheet alleges that this happened over a video call conversation. The ED is also alleging in the charge sheet that Mr. Kejriwal was part of the plan that was coordinated by Vijay Nair and in coordination with what they call the South Group. Part of the South Group was K. Kavita, the daughter of PRS leader KCR. The charge sheet alleges that Kavita orchestrated the deal with Kejriwal and Manish Sisodia along with some liquor cartels in the South. In exchange for the kickbacks, Kavita had access to policy formulation and the change of the excise policy in Delhi. Part of the conspiracy was also giving wholesale profits of 12% to certain private firms. One of those private firms was previously blacklisted as well, and exceptions were made to give those commissions to these private firms. The ED is alleging in its charge sheet that this conspiracy led to the streaming of illegal funds in the form of kickbacks from wholesalers back to the Aam Aadmi Party. And the charge sheet also alleges that out of those kickbacks of 100 crores, the Aam Aadmi Party even routed 45, almost half of the 100 crore kickback allegedly for the Goa campaign for the election that happened in 2022. Now, in the wake of these charges, what is the road ahead? What really lies ahead for Kejriwal, for Sisodia, and of course, what may this mean materially in the course of the elections? Kejriwal, of course, will face the prosecution as soon as the trial date is set and as soon as the trial begins. The stage currently is where documents are being scrutinized, which means all the evidence that's being produced by the Enforcement Directorate has to be made available to Mr. Kejriwal's lawyers, the defense side. The ED can now go back to the court and say that, look, we've got the sanction to prosecute, kindly frame charges against Mr. Kejriwal. The process, though, will only begin. The court has to be A, convinced about the framing of charges, and B, more importantly, the document screening process has to be complete. The Delhi High Court will then begin a hearing on the legality of the charge sheet, the charges that have been brought forth against Mr. Kejriwal and against Mr. Sisodia, and whether the investigating agency, the Enforcement Directorate in this instance, has material proof which will stand the test of law inside a court of law during the trial proceedings, whether it stands the test of law, which could then potentially lead to the accused persons being pronounced as guilty. But let's listen in to both Mr. Kejriwal and to Mr. Sisodia. Both of them filed their nominations. They're fighting from New Delhi and the Jangpura constituency. They filed their nominations today for the upcoming Delhi elections and spoke specifically to reporters on this sanction to prosecute nod, which has been given by the MHA.
सर आज ही आपका नामांकन है, आज ही गृह मंत्रालय ने ईडी के आपके निजी खिलाफ जांच के लिए उसको सैंक्शन दे दिया है।
वो उस तरह से चुनाव लड़ रहे हैं, हम इस तरह से चुनाव लड़ रहे हैं।
आज आपके खिलाफ एक ये भी आया कि एमएचए ने मुकदमा करने की इजाजत दे दी है उस जो आबकारी नीति का मामला चल रहा है आपके और अरविंद केजरीवाल जी के खिलाफ, तो क्या फिर से चुनावों में
इनके सारे कुकर्म इनके ऊपर भारी पड़ते हैं। इन्होंने मुझे जेल में रखा है, इनके ऊपर भारी पड़ेगा। इन्होंने केजरीवाल जी को गाली गलौज किया, केजरीवाल जी के ऊपर गालियां उछाली, वो इनको भारी पड़ेगा। जनता इसका जवाब देगी।
We're just now getting some details from the nomination papers that have been filed by Mr. Kejriwal. He's, of course, fighting from the New Delhi seat. So we've managed to access his poll affidavit, which details assets that he has presently at 1.73 crores. It is down from the 2020 declaration by a few crores, is our understanding. He has also declared that there are 14 pending cases against him, including, of course, the two cases that have been brought forth in the Liquorgate scam. But Kejriwal is now saying in his affidavit that his assets have come down compared to the election that happened 5 years ago and the affidavit that he filed in 2020. I believe Aman Sharma has more details on this. Aman, so just compare what Mr. Kejriwal has filed now to what his assets declaration was 5 years ago.
Well, Zaka, the affidavit that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal has filed today puts his assets at nearly rupees 1.73 crore. This is slightly down from 2020 when he had declared assets worth rupees 1.87 crores. So though his assets have come down, his spouse Sunita Kejriwal's assets have grown. That is due to the market value of their residential place and the gold she owns that has gone up from about, it was earlier in 2020, her wife had assets about 1.57 crores to which has gone up to nearly rupees 2.5 crores. So the couple now is worth almost rupees 4.23 crore, up from rupees 3.4 crore in 2020. But most of it is due to the rise in the residential place they have, the value of that, the current market value and the value of gold they have. So the Aam Aadmi Party could cite this affidavit to say, see, there is no real growth in Mr. Kejriwal's assets despite all the allegations that have been lodged against him. He does not even own a vehicle. But I think the more interesting part, which the BJP could pick, is that Mr. Kejriwal has declared 14 pending cases against him, including the CBI case in the liquor scam and the ED case in the liquor scam. He has mentioned that no charges have been framed in either of the cases, and proceeding the ED case, in fact, have been challenged by him. There are also 6 defamation cases, including the one where he had challenged the Prime Minister's degree, where the Gujarat University had contradicting him, and a BJP MP had lodged a defamation case against him in 2022. That has also been mentioned in this particular affidavit.
All right, we'll wait and see how this plays out, whether this will have an impact, whether this will become a campaign talking point, and whether the BJP and the Congress raise this, both the assets and, of course, the criminal cases that are pending against Mr. Kejriwal.